Perhaps you had better start from the beginning. Perhaps you had better start from the beginning. Perhaps you had better start from the beginning.
Hey there, this is LB with Bonus Bits. Today I'll be quickly going over part 1 of 3 to migrate from ServerSpec to InSpec. In this first step, we'll be creating a simple chef cookbook that installs Nginx and Php-fpm on an Amazon Linux Docker container, then writing a few example ServerSpec tests, and finally running them to see them pass. My local environment will be macOS with chefdk, Docker, Kitchen Docker Gem, Amazon Linux container, and I'll be using JetBrains RubyMine as my IDE. First, we'll start with creating a GitHub repo for our example cookbook, generating a cookbook skeleton, then adding some basic cookbook configurations. Lastly, we'll be writing a few ServerSpec tests, add a rake file with tasks to run our food critic, RuboCop, and ServerSpec tests. I like to use rake tasks because it makes it easy to run from RubyMine and works great for running the tests in our CI, which we'll be using CircleCI's version 2 beta. For simplicity, I won't be using any community cookbooks. First, we create a GitHub repo, called an example ServerSpec to inspect. To make sure that the Kitchen Docker gem is installed. Clone down the repo locally. Use chef generate cookbook to create a skeleton cookbook. They're going to create a ServerSpec test for Nginx. Now I'm going to create a spec helper, basically just requires the ServerSpec gem. Now I'm going to make a rake file and paste it in contents from one of my other cookbooks. Now I'm going to set up the kitchen config for Docker driver and Amazon Linux, and you have to set the platform to Rail for it to work. Now I'm going to make a RuboCop config and paste in my standard exclusions. I'm going to run food critic and RuboCop from the rake file tasks and make sure it's working correctly. Now I'm going to add Nginx and Php-fpm recipe code to install them, enable start services. There's a workaround for Docker container. It doesn't have the sysconfig network. A lot of init files won't work, so just a little template that throws that file out there. And then for whatever reason on Amazon Linux, Php-fpm 7.0 installs itself to run that as Apache, and so I need to change out in the config and some of the folders ownership to be Nginx. So let's do a quick little open3 Ruby block to straighten it out before start the service. And add some ServerSpec test for checking the ownership. And lastly, run the ServerSpec test from the rake task. And they all passed. All right, now we have a solid basic example cookbook running ServerSpec tests. And I've saved the work on GitHub as a branch named 01_ServerSpec so that you can use it as reference. Also, I've written instructions on my Bonus Bits website. Hope that was helpful, and the next video will be covering converting the ServerSpec test to InSpec tests.